Welcome to Common Mansplaining. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Happy Thanksgiving, Christian. Happy Thanksgiving. How's it going?
I have radio DJ voice, so
Yeah.
you'll excuse me if
Yeah, you got
I'm a little more subdued today.
you got like one of those those smooth, the slow jams.
Yeah,
Like one of those
95. Yeah.
late night special thing. Yeah, me too. I'm not feeling that great, so we'll see how long we can crank this up. But thank you guys for watching as always. Today we're going to talk about one of the most divisive political figures ever to walk the face of the earth. She's like right up there with Trump. And this is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has decided to resign, a resignation that kind of shocked everybody and is going to take place, I believe, on January 5th, effective January 5th. And so I think the reason that I wanted to talk about this is there's a lot of different issues with Marjorie Taylor Greene, gripes that she has with the party and divisions within the party that she's kind of just been a lightning rod for, right? She's been kind of like a throw into high relief all of these divisions, and of course it's created some kind of infighting, some drama. And the reason I wanted to go over it is because there's some philosophical and political concepts here that I think are very easily addressed when looking at her case, right? So the first thing I wanted to mention is that she wanted to put out the Epstein files, right? And was very consistent about saying, look, we should put the Epstein files out. We should, we shouldn't hide them. We should. And she was this way throughout, right? And I was too, by the way, right? Like I've never not said this. This is, but of course, Trump for a while didn't want to do it, right? He thought maybe it wasn't the right time, or maybe there was, more bad to come from it than good at the time, or there were, I'm sure, a million political calculations that went into this. But what strikes me most about this is I don't see why it's that big of a deal to disagree about something like that. Like, I mean, I get why she's fervent about it. And I get
Mhm.
why Trump is fervent about it, although I don't agree with him. I agreed with her in this case, right? In this one isolated situation. But I mean, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to disagree about politics, right? Like that's something
All
that's
right,
just yeah.
all right. Here's my take. So, um, yes, it all feels very. It has to do with political strategy. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene, when she was elected, was during the Biden administration. She came right her first 4 years. Um, and so being this gadfly, being somebody who brings up uncomfortable questions, trying to hold the government accountable, trying to call them out for fraud or election fraud or conspiracies, that's very much appropriate when you are the opposition party out of power,
Yes.
right? Right. You want to do that. You want to hold them accountable. You want to even distract they're answering questions they don't want to, right? And calling for the Epstein files, which Biden ignored his Justice Department, didn't do anything with, right? Was a way of sort of, you know, shaming them and made them look bad. It might have been a reason why, people were
Yeah.
ready to switch back to Trump
Sure.
was that the Democrats were bearing the Epstein files was like, oh, this must be very bad for them if they are, because
Right.
they're using everything to get at Trump, but nothing to do with Epstein.
Right.
So, but once you become the ruling party, right,
Okay.
the governing party, right, it's a little different, right?
Yes.
You're right. You're not just trying to ask uncomfortable questions. Your role has to be, all right, we now have to govern the country.
Hmm.
And we have to do it. We have to do because of our Republican institutions, we have to do it in a measured way, right? We have to pass laws, we have to get things through, so we have to sort of set priorities. We're going to do this, then we're going to do this, well, then we're going to do this. We can't do it all at once, right?
Right.
Um, and asking these questions essentially sort of is trying to like say, hey, this should be our number one priority, rather than say, okay, we're going to get to that.
Right.
But before we get to that, because we're governing, these things are top of the list. Now,
Right.
in America, since we only have two major political parties, there is a lot of compromise within those political parties. Yeah. So the Republican Party is not as in lockstep, and we allow a great diversity of sort of opinions in the Republican Party, not like the left, which demands orthodoxy with that if you're out of step, they want to kick you out of their
right, of course.
So we have this. So yeah, talking about the Epstein files and things like that, that's fine. But it was sort of what it had become is when people said, we're going to get to this, but let's not get in the way of governing. We're not just the opposition party who's wanting answers. We actually have the power. We're responsible for running the country, right? That's you have to kind of take on a different tenor, kind of have to grow up a little bit.
Okay.
And I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene was comfortable making that switch. Now, her background, she's not a lawyer, right? She had a business degree. And I think, right, what she wants to do, she still wants to have spicy takes.
Yeah.
That's great when you're an opposition party, not when you're in the governing party. What you do is you resign and you join the punditry class like us, the commentary class. And she's doing it exactly on the date that she qualifies for her pension. After serving in government for 5 years. So her retirement's taken care of. And now she can just enter commentary. Again, we would like to, on January 6th, we would like to invite Marjorie Taylor Greene to come on the show and share all of her spicy takes.
That would be awesome.
This is what to do. We're not in charge of governing the country. We can make spicy takes. And so, not that I have any problem with her substance or with the Epstein files, like you said.
Right.
But it's when she's actually a governing person on committees in the majority party that has to concern about running the country and passing bills and getting things done, you need to kind of let that be a priority over being a gadfly, trying to raising priorities out of order, right? And you would say, we're going to get to that, but we have to do this first before that.
So yeah, I mean, I obviously, I've never been in Congress. I've never been a senator. I don't know. You mentioned like a priority status and like a like kind of like a line of items that you want to knock out.
Yeah.
We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Like some of this stuff, I don't see why it can't happen concurrently, right? Especially if it's a campaign promise, and it's not like. I mean, obviously, she wanted to have these Epstein files released the whole time, and she was probably pretty vocal about it the entire time, which is fair. But it kind of came to a head, a month or two ago or whatever, when she was, doing all this back and forth with Trump. And I mean, we've been doing this for quite some time, right? And Trump had hit a lot of his other campaign issues already. Why was it not time for the Epstein files at that point? I mean, why couldn't he have addressed it 3 months prior?
All right. When you're in the ruling party, what you do is you have a private conversation with Pam Bondi. You set up meetings with people in the administration. The big thing is she's talking about this like openly, right? You get the answers you want, right? And classified because you're one of the elites, you're one of the people, right? But you don't go on talking about this when you're in the ruling party. All it does is distract and weaken your political ability to get things done.
So let me ask.
So that's when people were kind of just calling her like, look, we'll explain this to you, but we don't want you running your mouth and spreading your spicy takes. Right. But she likes the attention. Right. Anyway.
Let me just cut in real quick because the reason, I agree with what you said right there, but there's an extra wrinkle. And Trump kind of mentioned it in one of his like Truth Social. I don't know what you call them, a truth or a Truth Social text or a tweet, or I don't know what to call it. But anyway, in one of his Truth Social things, he mentioned that she was upset because he didn't answer, quote unquote, her never ending barrage of calls. Now, I don't know what that means exactly. I think partially it probably means that she was just a little overly needy, right? But it also probably means that Trump didn't make time for her when she was trying to set these meetings. So there's a little bit of both going back and forth there. But I feel like this is something that adults could handle easily if they just sat down and talked about it. And I don't know if Marjorie Taylor Greene is an adult, that she may not qualify. And I know Trump doesn't really qualify, at least in some senses. And in others, he's extremely prescient. But it does bug me that it bugs me that he mentioned that out loud. Like, it bugs me that even if he was like not returning her calls, why say that? Like, that seems like telling on yourself, right? Like shooting yourself in the foot. So I feel like if she, had been able to sit down.
So yes, traditionally, especially now, senators are different, but congressmen can sort of be our lower priority now to the administration, right? There are, we think of congressmen, representatives as sort of big shots, but in Washington they're not. Right now, she has a profile, a national profile, and a name that people know, and sort of want to be, but she's not in the leadership. She's not a whip and a leader. All right. She was kicked off her committees briefly, and now she's been put back on them. But she's not a power player as far as governing goes. Right. And so, yeah, the administration, maybe to their fault, didn't take her pleadings for access and maybe it was an ego thing, people with large egos, but and I'm fine with saying that was a mistake on the Trump administration's part, but she is definitely unhappy with how she was being treated by the majority, by her party. So that's fair. Spicy take, right? As far as but to then just start speculating on why she's not getting this access, rather than it sort of be normal for congressmen who are not in a need to know basis, aren't on committees or making policy, to get that right away, right? She just started agitating for it, trying to make the administration look bad. And then it's sort of like, all right, we'll do this, but you're kind of expected when you're within the party to kind of get in line and kind of help your party look good, because looking good helps build political capital, helps you. You're not supposed to make things harder for your party to do stuff in Washington. It's hard enough already, right? You don't need this. So any type of backstabbing, and the Democrats do this right, is taken, betrayers, right, are the lowest rung of hell, is taken really hard. Like any type of action from within your own party is kind of like,
is this really treachery, though? Let me ask. So, because this is the other way to think. Part of the problem with Marjorie Taylor Greene is the way that she went about it, right? Like, she definitely did use divisive rhetoric and was very, very not just vocal, but complaintive and combative about it, right? Like if I were there, and bear in mind, I have no political ability at all, right? I have no tact. Obviously I would be terrible. I don't know how to lie. I don't know how to do any of those politics things, right? But if I were in her shoes, I'd say, listen, Trump and I just disagree about this. That's all, I'm going to, for the time being, he's the president and I'm not. I'm going to respect his leadership on this, but know that I would prefer the Epstein files come to light. And that's how I would say it. Now, obviously, she didn't say it that way, but I don't feel like that's a problem, right? Maybe it's not good strategy, but it shouldn't incur someone saying, Marjorie Taylor Greene, or, well, she's a disgrace to the party and blah, 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 blah. Like, the way he went after her, obviously, is, of course, the typical Trump name calling.
Yeah, he's a bull in a china shop. Like, don't if you want nuance or somebody to underplay that, and Trump's not your guy. Like, he's gonna inappropriate bluster his way through a sensitive situation. Give me 1 second, and I'm gonna let you comment on that. I need to get some power to my phone.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So I'll keep it running. I mean, so yeah, Marjorie, I feel like these guys could have managed this issue if they were just adults about it. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but of course, then in comes the name calling, in comes the back and forth. And, I feel like adults should just be able to handle. Now, the other thing too is, Christian mentioned that you're supposed to switch tenors when when you're in the ruling body at the time, or if you're kind of running behind and you're just following the lead of the other party. I don't know if that's. I mean, I think it's probably again good strategy. I think he's right about that. I don't know if I could manage to do that. I'm kind of like, just me personally, I'm the same person everywhere. So I don't know if I'd be able to like just kind of switch my tech, which is why this place is a good place for me, right? Common Mansplaining. I get to say what I want to say, and nobody can tell me otherwise because it's our show. Like this is, and there's no reason for me to necessarily switch political tactics because I'm not running for office, and dear God help us if I ever do.
Well, yeah. For the commentary class, it's smart for us to criticize the ruling party, right? Trump. We're not homers for Trump. I mean, we're generally like to see the federal government run in a conservative manner, but that doesn't mean we can't criticize the Republican Party or Trump when we disagree with their policy or their strategy.
All the time.
But people within the party are meant to voice those concerns in meetings that are not publicly right. Your dirty laundry, let's launder that privately and not publicly.
What do you do then if let's say you are Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? You have a concern and it's a valid concern, like an important one. Trump's not living up to his campaign promise of, delivering the Epstein files or whatever, right? Whatever the issue might be, right? You've tried to make phone calls. That's not landing because you're really just not that important. What's the next step to escalate? Like, what do you do do you just give it up? Just say, well, I guess I just can't be me because strategy.
So there are other people to talk to besides Trump in government, right? Obviously, people within Congress, within her leadership, right? She should have, said like, hey, can she could reach out. Maybe she was always going to Trump directly instead of reaching out to, his lawyers or people within the West Wing that would be more tasked to handle that because she wanted the access in the photo op of being with Trump, who's the big attention star, right? She could reach out to Pam Bondi or to Kash Patel or maybe to their deputies, actually, right?
Yeah, maybe that works.
And just see, to express internal memos kind of to them and ask for meetings. Right, you have other things that you can do, and again, I'm just speculating based on, because when you're the outside party like under the Biden, yes, you want all of this in the press and you want all of that, and that she has not wanted to change that tact.
So here, the reason why I ask is because you know me, I'm a business manager most of my life. I've been in the business world, and I've been in a situation where I've had to deal with corporate bodies. Right now, I realize that politics is a little bit different, but there is still a command structure, right? There is still a leadership role, and then there's people who basically follow that lead. And Trump, more than most, commands that lead be like absolutely adhered to, and that there's no deviation whatsoever. And so I've been in that spot where I have a concern and I bring it to my boss, but the problem is my boss isn't sympathetic because he's told not to be, right? Because the entire command structure is instructed, no, this is how it's going to be and this is how we're going to do it. And so anybody you talk to in that line is just going to have deaf ears because they're all already pointed in the other direction. So I've been in that spot, and let me tell you, I've made the same mistakes that she has by being vocal about something, even when I'm supposed to keep quiet. But I don't know the other answer, right? Like, because I don't have it in me to not speak my mind. Now, maybe she doesn't either. Maybe that's just not suited for politics. Maybe she's just not right.
That is probably closer to the truth. But I just had a spicy thought while you were thinking there. Like Trump's chief of staff. What's her name? Her name is eluding me right now.
Yeah, mine too. Well, chief. Anyway,
look it up real quick. I'm not.
Yeah,
Trump's chief of staff.
Chief of staff. Anyway, what about her? Susie Willis. Wow, Susie Wild. Yeah.
Susie Wild. Yeah. So she has been a good influence versus Trump's first administration, the second administration, with trying to have Trump not say things that gets in the way of his governing. The Trump would do stuff that made his life more difficult, right?
Right.
Especially for a second term. The first 2 years are the most important because the lame duck stuff really starts to kick in the last 2 years.
Oh yeah.
But right now, he's got a lot of juice, and she wants to keep him focused on that. And she would be the one too that would be kicking down to people like, "Hey, let's stay on task. Let's not get distracted." And it's one thing, Marjorie Taylor Greene or people to get their marching orders or the respect for Trump. But, if it's the chief of staff who's kind of telling them, look, this is not a priority, get in line kind of thing, especially another woman, like I could see that becoming a something that would antagonize her ego. Right?
Sure,
It's
that's
one
fair.
thing for Trump to say, hey, we need you to chill on this until after the midterms next year. Right? Then we're going to get to it in 2027, right? But for Susie to say that, that just feels like a cat fight. Like sometimes women don't are react differently to other women in leadership roles than men. It's just it's
I've definitely been,
and
and I've been there too with the administrative staff. Like I've definitely run into corporate like entanglements. Where I remember this time where I was like, I had this battle essentially with not the VP of operations, but his secretary, and I'm like, she thought she had a lot of clout because she was the secretary of the VP of operations. I'm like, you're still just a secretary. Just want to let you know, you are support staff. You work for operations, not the other way around. But I mean, obviously, that didn't go over well, but. But okay,
I think Susie Wild is the thing that is maybe blocking Marjorie Taylor Greene and the thing that has driven her to resignation.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. Yeah, she definitely felt at least at some point she had to feel like she's being antagonized at some point by somebody, and Trump, you would think she would expect that. So it has to probably be something else in addition. But anyway, so the next dispute that she has, the next like gripe that she has is that Trump's foreign policy is essentially not America first because he's spending time on foreign policy. And I have to say, this is one of the gripes that I feel has just not much to it. Like it's just not, there's not much there. Uh, you have to do some foreign policy, even if you are like entirely focused on domestic policy and that's your priority. You have to make sure that you have the environment to have a good running domestic policy. And if you don't have any conversations, any diplomatic talks, any engagements with the foreign, nations that feed you trade, that I mean, a lot of that has domestic ramifications. So I don't know why she can't see that. That seems like I don't know where her brain is on that.
Well, first off, legally nobody else can do it.
Yeah, right.
Governors can't do foreign policy.
Right.
Senators can't do foreign policy. Judges cannot do foreign policy. Literally, only the executive can create foreign policy and do this stuff. Now, he's got to bring that stuff and ratified by the Senate, but it's literally his job and the only one to do it. And just so, yeah, he wants to put America first, but this is his job. He has to. He has to do this stuff, even if he's.
Anyway. People used to say when I was young, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it, right? Like that's
nobody is legally allowed to do it but him. Come on.
Right. Yeah. People don't realize ambassadors don't really have much. All they do is they're like glorified messengers, right? Like that's all they do is communicate.
They're appointed by him. That's his administration. That's still the executive.
Now, the one thing I'll give her a little bit, all right, is in line with this foreign policy gripe. She doesn't like our involvement with Israel, and I think she does have a little something where it comes to the fact of the point that Israel's lobbyist group is just very, very powerful, very influential in America and everywhere. They seem to be punching way above their weight as far as lobbying is concerned. And now I don't know if that's an inherent problem, but it is intriguing to me, and it's something that I maybe should spend some time researching, and like we should do a whole show on it at some point because they really do have a lot of clout for such as now they are our ally, right? For better or for worse currently, right? At least at the moment. Now, maybe there's some things that they do that we should wash our hands of. Maybe there's some things that we should be more involved in, but they really are able to gain support, especially in our government, even on both sides of the party, on both sides of the aisle, well beyond what I would normally think a lobbying group can do. And that's impressive to me. And I will give Marjorie Taylor Greene that one like caveat is that I don't know. I mean, it's all when someone has that kind of pull and they probably shouldn't have that level of pull, but they have it. I do become, as a common man, I become skeptical. I'm like, okay, how did they get that kind of weight? And are we actually doing things, to our benefit if every time it seems to go their way, every time, whether or not it also goes our way is a question too, but they always seem to get their way.
All right. So yeah, we can do another show in Israel. Here's the short version is in the Middle East, which is a highly volatile world pivoting region. They are our most reliable ally, where their institutions are the most like us. Turkey used to be secular. They have, Erdogan. They are not as reliable as they used to be. There's no one else out there that we can trust, and especially that sort of understands Western institutions and Western culture,
Yeah, Middle East.
like them, and gets it and is successful because of their Westernization.
Absolutely.
Like they are. So, yeah, if Israel was in, right next to the Netherlands, right, it
Right.
wouldn't be as big a deal. But because of their location, right, you got Egypt,
Right.
Syria, Lebanon, and stuff, and places and on the Mediterranean that we want to have influence. So they're our only real ally. I mean, Qatar is not
Yeah.
really an ally. I mean, we're friendly on a business level with Saudi Arabia. Kuwait likes us because we freedom, kind of thing like that.
Right.
But really, that gets us is Israel. And unfortunately, the Middle East has been since the end of the Cold War, has been the major sort of hub for world global
Yeah. Yeah.
actions
Don't get
and
me wrong.
problems. And so I think that undue influence is a large location to be flip about real estate.
Sure. I'm sure our interest is commensurate with that as well, right? I'm sure that's part of why we give them such such a heavy ear. But I always wonder. I'm always like every time it seems like it's almost like in politics, right? As a prospective congressperson, senator, president, anyone, it's like you're almost required to pay homage to Israel. You're almost required to say, "Oh yes, I'm a staunch ally of Israel." Because if you don't say that, that's basically the end of your political career, and that's a lot of power. That's a lot of power to wield. Now, one thing that I think, and this is kind of a side note, but one thing that this situation brings up, I still say that we should get money out of government almost entirely. I don't like PACs in general. I don't like. I realize that there's like a speech right there that's involved. With all the whole like saying businesses can give money as a form of speech. I don't know that I buy that. I don't know that businesses should have the same inherent rights that individuals should have. And I have to think about that more. But yeah, I think if we took that out of government, then I think all these lobbying groups, these like giant PACs, would just automatically have less influence and we wouldn't have to worry about it.
So
Not saying that they're always doing something.
foreign influence, even from an ally, is something that we should be very concerned about, and should police. If that certainly, I don't think that's being done directly, but yeah, maybe through PACs. I think that's a fair criticism. I don't know precisely where to draw the line on that because of our
Yeah.
First Amendment
Yeah, it's tough.
on freedom of speech, but we can certainly police foreign uh, anything that's foreign and
Right.
have firmer blocks on that. And at least make it very very transparent.
Yeah.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene, not everything Israel does we agree with. I'm not
Right.
here to say every bullet fired, I would agree with 100%. I don't carry water for Israel, but in general,
I do.
like they're more supportive of us. I think there's been a lot of, especially on the international stage, that we will reliably support us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of these constant vigilant things that the Cold War taught us. If we ever sort of even just showed equivocation with the Soviets, right, they would pounce. If we looked weak, boom, their tanks are going into another country because they think, since our leadership is not going to, uphold them. That's the kind of situation with Israel.
And they did
Is
in
even
Ukraine.
if you have deep reservations or criticisms, you say them in private meetings, and then you get in front of the cameras and say, we stand constant vigilance with Israel. Because as soon as all the enemies of Israel see that there's even any type of division or support or weakening of support for Israel, they're taking that as, okay, now we can attack and nothing will happen, right?
Yeah.
Which is not the case. And then we have to have this, then we have to go back in and kill a bunch of them and have all this stuff. Like, they misinterpret the slightest sort of weakening of publicly of Israeli support is construed completely out of whack by their enemies. There are many enemies,
Yeah.
right? Right, and with Iran. And so it's, the strategy has been, if you have issues, you don't say them on camera, you talk about them with the ambassador or with the whoever's in charge, but publicly everybody has to say, we stand with Israel, and you attack Israel no matter which party's in power, that we're going to support Israel and their right to defend themselves, i.e., we're going to supply them weapons that are going to allow them to kick your butt, right?
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, I mean,
And that message is the most likely to lead to just peace, which is really what both parties want. They just don't want,
Well,
Iran to think like, aha, no, there's somebody here, a Jew hater in the Republican Party. Now we can attack Israel, and America won't back us.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, it's dangerous.
We
It is
just don't want
dangerous.
that war to start, right? And
Right.
this is,
Yeah.
it's partly their culture. It's very different. We kind of have to handle it a little bit different.
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she started, using a lot of the left's rhetoric with the whole like calling Israel's, that saying they're committing a genocide and stuff like that. I don't know. I wonder if I don't know if someone is like talking to her like a Marjorie Taylor Greene whisperer who's like feeding her this kind of weird like contrary message in the back of her head, because a lot of the stuff she was not saying, 7 months ago, and then now all of a sudden it seems like all of a sudden her ideology is almost completely shifted. I don't know. It's difficult to say, but yeah, I don't think a case can be made for calling this
She's gotten blue pilled or something, right?
yeah, something. I don't know. Or at least partially. I don't know. But anyway, so all right. The next one is and this again kind of shows like an ideology shift. She's worried about affordable health care, right? All of a sudden, she's worried about affordable health care. And she takes the government shutdown and the stare down between the two parties, right, as like acquiescence, as like nobody doing anything. So she's like criticizing the GOP for not engaging in the debate about Affordable Care Act, the provisions that would, keep supplying the subsidies to these. And I think again, she's just off her rocker because number one, right? Never mind the fact that the federal government isn't supposed to be in healthcare. Never mind that. Like I've said that too many times to count. Number two, these are subsidies that were put in during an emergency time period, right? And this whole rhetoric again, this is like a blue pilled thing. She keeps on using the left's rhetoric. She'll say, "Oh, the premiums are going to double." They're not going to double. They're going to go back to normal, back to what they were before there was an emergency, because there is no longer an emergency, right? And that's the rhetoric that the left is using. They're like, "Oh, it's going to double." And this, to me, I feel like this shows the incredible danger of government handouts, is because once you start giving people money and you do it for any length of time, they're going to start expecting it. And then if you do anything to return it to the point where it was before and stop giving them this extra money, They're like, oh, no, that's ours. Anything you do to modify that is a modification of my wealth. That's
Yeah.
not how it works. That's dangerous.
Well, right. What people want, right? They want constancy. So any type of correction, right? This is what this would be, a correction back to. There will be normative disruption, and things could be higher for a little bit, but then, right, in a capitalist system, people won't consume those plans that are so high. Right? We have choice. People will not buy those plans. And so they'll have to bring their plans down to where they're reasonable, where they make sense. Right. And so you're only going to sell. Again, Trump removed the requirement that we have to buy, right? Because there's no penalty if we don't buy. So insurance still has to have a value proposition for us. So if it's worth it, then we're going to purchase it. If the prices are high and they're not providing value, then we're not going to purchase it, right? And that's will there be some disruption? Will there be yes? Will there be things? But it's gotta the government cannot endlessly subsidize things at an emergency level when the emergency is passed. There's a time to go back to normalcy.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm wondering if Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm wondering if she's like, I don't know if she's just like listening to some left wing constituent base, or somebody who's got some extra pull with her, or maybe another lobbyist group, or somebody who's like offering to throw her money or to like kick her out. I don't know what's going on, but like this is the kind of thing that if you were to rewind a year, she would be saying what I'm saying. She would say that this, she would be espousing conservative values. She would say that, government doesn't belong in healthcare, and that, the same things that I just said. But now all of a sudden it's changed. Now all of a sudden she feels, and I'm not saying that she's made like a complete 180. She hasn't gone over to like, okay, socialism, yay, but it's definitely like, oh no, the government should help fix this and make premiums more affordable. That's dangerous. Like, I don't think she realizes the slippery slope she's on.
So my more cynical side is this is about ratings,
Yeah,
attention,
I think you're right.
and that being contrary, right? Sort of being the different voice, whether it be in her party or outside her party, is what gets her interviews. Now the Democratic Party, so right, she is not a Mitt Romney style like man of quiet dignity with years
Not quite.
of education at top schools and who thinks about puts a lot of thought into what he says. She's very flip. Um, the Democratic Party would like her to be the face of the Republican Party, right?
I
Much
wouldn't.
way like we like to use Jasmine Crockett or AOC or anybody that can kind of make a fool of themselves in front of a microphone. We want them to be in front of that microphone, and we want to hear what their spicy takes are all the time, and say this is the policy line of the Democratic Party if they were to get in power, right? So she has the liberal media are more than willing to put a microphone in front of her as long as she has as long as she's critical of Trump, as long as she has these sort of, they like, if she calls them up, hey, can I do an interview? And they're like, what are you going to say? Well, I'm going to criticize opposition to ICE and well, yeah, that's not a video I want to do. Oh,
Right.
so I'm gonna criticize why aren't the Epstein files out? Oh, okay, we'll be right there in 10 minutes. That's the cynical thing to me, is this will get her out, and why I feel like she's resigning with her pension intact.
Yep.
So she can join the pundit class, so she can get maybe a very lucrative contract at one of the major mainstream media things and just spout her opinions. And then it doesn't matter because she can't be criticized for getting in the way of government.
No, I believe you. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, and she's already been like playing the wheel, right? She was on The View and a bunch of other places. Like she's already like started to court that avenue, right? And I think honestly, it's like we said earlier, she's probably better suited to that from the beginning. But this is like a perfect like stepping stone to launch that career. So like be a flagrant congresswoman, and then all of a sudden shift over after making all these waves.
Yeah, I'm saying especially how much will the left and the mainstream left love her if she, a hardcore manga person, gets blue pilled and comes back and becomes a progressive, joins all those things and becomes critical populism, Trumpism, or conservative government, and Holland wants, to do
Oh, yeah.
bigger government all the time. Gosh, she would be their superstar.
All right,
Like
and
that.
they're already using her as like a gotcha machine. They're all like, see, she says that Trump is dangerous, therefore Trump is dangerous. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
5 minutes ago, you were
Yeah.
willing to declaim every single thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene
Yes,
said, saying that she was a
absolutely.
lunatic, and you didn't believe a single thing that she said. And now all of a sudden she says one thing you agree
Oh,
with. And it's
yeah.
like, see?
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
God. So full
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it.
They're like, this is the most sober, sane analysis of anybody in Washington. Yeah, they're going to backpedal. No. They have a long track of rolling their eyes and mocking her. Jon Stewart especially. And
Yep.
so yeah, she's a wild card, right?
Yeah.
With wild cards, you get interesting takes and you get interesting television, but it's not necessarily like good governance or good policy. And
Right.
she certainly doesn't have a place at the table of setting policy.
Yeah.
So she's being shown like, look, you're a minor congresswoman of a minor district in Georgia. We like your attention for us when we're out of power, but you're not helping right now.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, I mean, don't get me wrong, because like I said, I'm not suited for
Yeah.
politics, so I wouldn't be the one to do this, right? But to an extent, there is a time where you just have to follow leadership. There is a time where you just have to trust that the direction that's set for you is the right one when you're not in charge. And I mean, that isn't to say that that's always the case. There's times where you have to speak up or maybe depart from that career or move to something else, which I think is what she's doing, which at least I respect that, right? At least I respect the fact that she realizes that maybe she's in the wrong place. Now, I have to, like, again, the cynic in me, the timing is very suggestive, right? Right after you get the pension. And then the other thing is, like, I get the sense that maybe she's just kind of holding off on this decision until then. Like, I get this because if you're ready to, like, boom, the second the pension hits, I feel like it's been something that's been stewing in the back of your mind, and you just be like, I've had it, but I'm gonna wait an extra 5 months. And then 1 month, 2 months before the date, I'm gonna start saying all the crazy things, and then
I will say one thing. My political science teacher, Poli-Sci 101, he was a chief of staff for a U.S. congressman, and he said that is a hard. You work so hard, right? They're not heavily compensated, right? For the status, you think like the amount of hours, like unbelievably mind-numbingly boring meetings and paperwork they've got to go through,
Yep.
and then come back and do town halls in their district and do stuff like that. It is so much work.
And it's thankless. It's thankless.
Right.
Nobody likes
And
you.
really not highly rewarded, like unless you can sell books, right? Or
Yeah.
raise your profile and you have ambitions to either join the leadership or
Right.
become a senator or something like that. And I think she saw that her appeal was more of as a gadfly and wasn't going to really be taken seriously for leadership or governing or a national profile. I
Yeah.
think she saw her way to the best pass for her was to join the punditry class with
Yeah.
us, maybe
Yeah.
have a podcast and make obviously a little bit more money than we are. So let's just call that what that is. But the left, yeah, especially if she adopts, leftist things that government is the answer kind of thing, man, they're gonna love her. And
Yeah, I
it's
bet.
so hard to turn down that love. Like so many people, like the long track record of judges, especially other people who were conservative, and once they get around the elites and this sort of peer pressure to
Yep.
give into this leftist compassion kind of thing, especially when you're taking care, when your money situation is fine, right? Is very intoxicating, and we'll see what she does.
Yeah, absolutely. And they throw you all kinds of money. They throw you all kinds of sweetheart deals. Like I mean, there's like fields full of pundits that are online right now that essentially get like checks cut out to them, but just to continue to espouse the left wing, at like David Pacman and all them. They all get on that train and get just boatloads of money. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing something like that from the right, but no, unfortunately, making more than us is not that difficult. Yeah, I don't agree with her resignation in that I don't like quitters. I don't like that someone giving up midterm. I feel like
And it's hard work. Yeah.
it is hard work, but the honorable thing to do, in my opinion, is to ride out your term and then call it.
Do the hard work.
Yeah, to do the work. You're the one that signed up for it, right? And it's not like anybody signs up for politics thinking, oh, this is going to be a breeze. No one's going to have, take shots at me. No, being in public life, it's easy, pocket change. No way. No way. She knew what she was getting into. And she, in particular, knew how toxic it could be, how divisive it could be, because she was the one that was peddling it. This was like her MO. So I can't imagine her coming into this and saying, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was going to be this hard. I mean, don't get me wrong.
She wants it toxic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, everybody, when they're growing up, what you say, I want to be a policeman. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a congressperson, and then when you grow up, you realize it's not so easy, right? You have to do outrageous amounts of schooling. You have to do training. You have to do this. And then when you get into the job, a lot of it's administrative garbage, right? Everybody gets that wake up call.
Really boring meetings. Yeah. So many boring meetings, no matter what job you're in, that you never expected you were going to have to sit through.
Right. I mean, shoot, in my business career, I used to say, look, there's, people would get on me and they would go meeting after meeting after meeting. And I'd be like, listen, there's two things I can do for you. I can run the heck out of your company and make you buttloads of dollars, or I can show you that I'm doing it. And the more I do of the latter, the less I do of the former. So which one do you want? Do you want more money, or do you want me to show you how I'm doing it? Right. Like, just get rid of the administrator. But of course, everybody, that's how it goes. But I know that she knew this before she got into this. I know she's not that dumb. So anyway, but yeah, she should have done that. But by the same token, I don't think that even public disagreement deserves the brand of a traitor. I don't think that. I think that Trump needs to learn how to, this will not be the first or the last time that I say that Trump's rhetoric is atrocious. So it is what it is. Now, one thing I wanted to mention about the whole public healthcare thing, just before we leave that entirely, it reminds me a lot of the type of marketing that my ex-wife would fall prone to, right? And this isn't a dig. This women all over the place fall. It's called the 50% off deal, right? You go in and the store takes an item that it normally is worth $10, marks it up to 20, and then gives you a 50% off deal so that it's worth $10 again. And they're like, and I can't tell you how many people go into the store and they're like, but it's 50% off. I'm like, you're paying exactly what they want you to pay for it. Exactly what they want you to pay for. Nothing, you're not getting a deal. You're just getting what they call a deal, right? And the same thing happens here in reverse with this public healthcare thing. It's not like all of a sudden you're getting this magical deal that's going, you're going back to normal. You're going to exactly what you were always supposed to pay, and that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, this is taking the subsidies were going, not going to you per se, they're going to the insurance companies. So
yeah, absolutely. Everybody, yeah, and then and the insurance companies really should just absorb that cost too, because nothing's actually changed. But never mind. It is what it is. Now, the last thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of disagreed with, the gripe, was the H-1B visa direction that Trump had. And again, this is just like, it's just a disagreement. I feel like there was a very, and she goes through this apology. She says, I'm going to stop being so divisive. I'm going to stop doing this toxic rhetoric. All she had to do was stop that, 2 months earlier and say, say these things nicely, right? Because again, I would say all this stuff nicely. I would say, look, I just don't agree with Trump in this matter. That's all. There's nothing wrong with this agreement. As a matter of fact, I would play it up. I'd be like, here in the GOP, we pride ourselves on having diversity of thought. And that would be a positive thing. And yet she's like, it's like she's taking shots at him. And let me tell you, if the past is any lesson for us, it is that taking shots at the number one big dog is probably a mistake for your career. Just saying. Whether that's good or bad.
Especially if you're an elite, he will not hold punches. He will go after you brutally.
Absolutely. So, but to Marjorie Taylor Greene's credit, she did say in her apology that real life isn't like online life, right? Like the things that people say online are very They're very mean. And I have to admit that it's like kind of like a, an old school Gen X or millennial. I don't really understand why. I never have, because I'm the same person online that I am in person. I'm the same person here on YouTube. I'm the same person on Facebook. I'm the same person on X. I'm the same person everywhere, because I didn't learn to code switch like that. I just was never raised that way. And I don't understand the whole like keyboard warrior thing where you're just like really angry and mean online, but then if you talk to them in person, they're all of a sudden cool again, right? And I don't understand the cancel culture, and I don't understand ghosting, and I don't understand all the mean things that people do. And I don't understand the fact that hateful content is like ramped up online because the algorithms like find it.
That's because
Yeah,
you're an adult, you're a man, you're willing to back up what you say.
right,
Right?
right.
You would say something in somebody's face, right? Because you're not a coward. Right. A lot of this stuff is yeah, the people, they'll say stuff flippantly. They either want engagement or they're trying to be proactive, but they wouldn't say it to somebody's faces because they're a coward or because they really don't believe in it. They're just trying to be, you know, a provocative. And I think that's um what we need discernment on here, right? Right. Who are the adults? Who are men?
Right.
Who are acting right in a way that right, who are being honest. They're acting online how they would act in person because they stand by what they say, and who are making these statements because they know there's no consequences for it. They know it's not real, just some fantasy world, right? And or they're being paid for it, and they're just willing to be bought, and they'll say whatever anybody pays them to say.
Absolutely.
Right? Again, right? We should be able to discern that, and that's a here in Common Man Mansplaining. We try to call that out. We try to call out spin,
Yes.
right? What we say spin or deliberate. What an ad? Somebody's just doing this because he's been lobbied and paid to say it. And so
Yep.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, has definitely maybe there's lobbies and maybe there's money that's come for her. I think
Maybe.
she's certainly seen that there's money at the end of the rainbow when she leaves Congress, and she's ready to collect that money.
Yeah,
So,
that's safe. I'm gonna go look at some of the comments we've gotten.
sure,
I
yeah.
agree with Mjolnir says, "Speak truth no matter what. For a lie to one person is eventually a lie to many, and a lie to oneself and to your creator." Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I mean, that's the thing that people forget online is that you're not just talking to the person you're talking to. You're really airing all of your laundry for everyone, and it's permanent record too. It's not like you can't pretend you didn't say it 10 minutes later. You said that, and everybody knows, and it'll follow you forever. Like, especially
Yeah.
for people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the public life, right? I mean, you take someone like, Ben Shapiro, he has, if you go on his website, it's kind of funny. And I think we should maybe even do this too, if we ever have things that we need to retract. He has like a whole page that's dedicated to like stupid stuff that I said once, and he like, either retracts it or clarifies it or, explains it away or, at least gives an explanation for, I think that's great. I think that,
It's
that takes
integrity, yeah.
accountability. Right, for what you said, and I'm glad that Marjorie Taylor Greene is finally stepping up to the plate of taking accountability for some of the things that she said. But I also agree with her when she says that there's a lot of like fighting, across the aisle for no reason, and I agree with that 100%. Like, there's a lot that we have in common, like believe it or not, even now, even though I truly feel like the Democrat Party has shifted almost to a point of no return, almost in certain cases, especially with the extremes, with the radicals, or maybe at a place where I can't find much common ground. But most of them are still what I would call the classic Democrats, like the old school people who still want the same things that I want. They just have a different way of getting there, right? Like they still want America to succeed for the most part. They still, we're essentially believers in Western society, believers in capitalism. They were still a lot of the things that they still go to church, they still do the same things that I do. So I still feel like there's plenty of common ground to build upon, and I really wish that everyone on both sides of the aisle would at least start with that mind frame, right? Even if they reach a dead end or reach a place where there's just an impasse, if you just start out by assuming the best of your fellow man, everything will be better. Everything. So I hope that's something that they're willing to do. Anybody else have any? Let's see. Yeah, George Bush
Well,
Jr.
I was just gonna add to that. I mean,
Yeah,
Dostoevsky in Crime and Punishment said the most important thing is it's one thing to be discreet or to keep secrets or to even lie to conceal something, but don't lie to yourself. Is
right.
the person that lies to themselves, that becomes dangerous and it leads to really unhealthy things psychologically and bad
Absolutely.
behaviors. And so just living in a place where we can be honest with ourselves, deal with confront our weaknesses, um, and call a spade, right? That's going to be a lot healthier space for us.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what do you think happens now that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be out of the picture? Who takes her place? Do you think? Are there like
In
front
a
runners? I think
district, or just as the media darling that the left likes to
both.
show to be the buffoon of the right.
Both, actually. I'm kind of curious.
Right.
I bet-
Who was that New York congressman that was complete idiot who ended up getting kicked out and now he's in jail or something.
oh,
Um,
yeah, oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Santos.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I mean it's I guess whoever loves the media the most. I don't have a congressman up there. I mean maybe Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. They're like, but he's sharp.
Yeah.
Right, his insights. He's just got a lot of folksy kind of analogies
Right.
that are very TV centric,
Yeah. He's
but
colorful.
he's very biting. He's astute. He's not, um, and he's a lawyer and he knows the stakes. I'd like having somebody more like that rather than somebody who's a neophyte. Generally, they want to find somebody who's inexperienced. So whoever
Yeah.
comes in has the least amount of experience, especially if they don't have a legal background, have never sat on committees or government, they're going to get that person in front and please put a microphone in front of them. Please tell us your spicy takes right now. You
Right.
know,
Right.
we'll see.
So, who's running to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene in like the actual district? Let's see. I can't remember.
They'll have a special election
Yeah,
or
that
it'll
was
be
special election.
appointed.
When does that
Um,
happen?
it's usually it
At the next.
depends on the governor
Okay.
in Georgia. By worst case scenario would be November of 2026, right?
It's a long time to wait with it, and we're already running a razor thin edge, of
Yeah,
advantage. Right.
hopefully they'll get. I think if there's a Republican governor in Georgia, then it'll be appointed sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope so. Any closing thoughts on this? I just my thoughts are. I just think that Marjorie Taylor Greene should have ridden out her term. I think that she should have been a little bit
I
more
agree.
adult about this whole thing. I think Trump should have been a little bit more adult about this whole thing. I think they should have just put their heads together, collaborated like adults. I honestly, one thing that just never ceases to blow my mind is just how complex and crazy they make this stuff in politics. Where I'm like, it doesn't seem that hard. You and me could probably figure this out in seconds, and yet. Because it's just, I mean, I understand because there's just so many different people, so many different understandings, so many different voices, that it has to get complex. But man, I feel like it would just be so I don't know. Can't be that difficult, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the old joke was that national federal politics are show business for ugly people, right?
I
And
like it.
and not to cast any aspersions upon Marjorie Taylor Greene, but
Right.
she definitely made this about show business. What I would
Yes.
hope is that she would have a chief of staff, somebody who's sober and maybe more intelligent than she is, that could really kind of rein her in and focus her on here's what we want to actually accomplish. Right. I don't think her goals were ever accomplishment. It was just show business, raising her status like it was a WWE storyline. So I'm not sad to see her go. Um,
Right.
and we need gadflies, but we can have a better quality of gadfly.
Yeah.
That was
I
my
actually,
take.
I would love it if Senator Kennedy takes over. That'd be phenomenal. I mean, that would be devastating to the Democrats because he doesn't miss a beat. He's super sharp. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We do this every Thursday, every Sunday. Thanks I'm glad you missed us terribly over the Thanksgiving holiday. We missed you too. So hopefully we get to see you again on this Thursday, and we really appreciate your support. We appreciate your help. If you guys ever want to throw us a super chat, that would go a long way toward helping us get the infrastructure set up for this thing, because I definitely want to start making some moves, get us our trademark, managed, get my studio set up, and Christian's got to get his studio set up in his new spot, and then I want to get make some changes with our StreamYard service and try to get some new stuff going on for you guys, and that way we can provide you with greater service and greater information. But thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And we'll catch you next time on Common Mansplaining.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming.